Well, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome back to another live iThemes training event. My name is Nathan Ingram, and today I'm joined by Mike Mortimer, who is the support lead for iThemes hosting, and we're going to be talking about how to move your website over to iThemes hosting. So, Mike, it's great to have you today. Tell us a little bit, give us a little bit of a broader overview of what we're going to be looking at.
Hey everybody, glad to have you guys on here. Look forward to showing you how we're going to move your websites over into the iThemes hosting product. It's a fairly straightforward process for anybody that has used Backup Buddy and done any kind of restores or migrations using the Backup Buddy system. A couple of tweaks here and there as we go throughout the process from that standard Backup Buddy migration, just to make sure that everything works well within the iThemes hosting platform.
Cool. So, Mike, you are the lead support for iThemes hosting. So, if folks have a problem and they drop a support ticket in, chances are they'll be talking to you. Is that right?
Yes. So we actually have just launched 24/7 support for iThemes hosting. So congratulations to everybody that gave us some feedback there and let us know that that's what you guys wanted. So we went ahead and launched that. So initially, you may speak to one of the few 24/7 support members that we just brought on board. But typically, I will be reviewing each of those tickets and helping out on that side as well.
Awesome. So, Mike has been with iThemes for quite a while. You've done some support with Backup Buddy as well. So, if you guys have done any support tickets on Backup Buddy, you might recognize Mike's name. So, like he said, today we're going to be looking through the whole process of taking a site from one server over into iThemes hosting, and we're going to be using wpnathan.com as the guinea pig there. If you're just joining us in GoToWebinar, several folks just popping in here after the top of the hour. The chat room is live over at iThemes.com/chat. There's a link to this process that we're going to be going through in the iThemes knowledge base that is there in the chat room. You can have that open, and if you want to follow along, you can certainly do that. If you want to print that off or save it as a PDF so you have the process, you can do that as well. As always, if you have questions as we go, please put those in the chat room, iThemes.com/chat, and I'll do my best to get those over to Mike as we're covering those things. If we miss your question, don't worry. We'll be having a wrap-up Q&A at the end, so we make sure we cover all of them. So, Mike, let's talk about how to get a site over to iThemes hosting.
All right, yeah. So like I had mentioned, this process should be familiar to anybody that has previously used Backup Buddy to do any kind of restore or migration. One of the key things here, though, is that there were a number of changes made to Backup Buddy and Import Buddy to make sure that we have full compatibility with iThemes hosting. So you do need to use Backup Buddy version 8.2.8.0 and higher. Any earlier versions, you're going to start running into some issues with making sure that everything gets moved over correctly. So that's the biggest thing to make sure that we do when we're just kicking off. So in order to start off here, you're going to go into your sync panel. I'm assuming everybody's already purchased your hosting. So you'll go into your sync and head over to the hosting page. And the very first thing is just go ahead and add your site with the Add Site button. This process, as Nathan said earlier, takes roughly 1.5 to 2 minutes. I don't think I've seen it take much longer than that, so which is very nice when you can get a full working WordPress site up and running within 2 minutes.
Yeah, it is a pretty amazing process, the things that are going on behind the scenes here, because not only is the hosting account being provisioned, but WordPress is being installed, and a Let's Encrypt certificate for SSL is also being created and authorized and all of that. So there's a lot happening here, right, Mike?
Oh, absolutely. All of the iThemes hosting accounts come with that Let's Encrypt certificate. So there's massive savings right there when you're looking at what they're about $100 for an SSL certificate right now.
Yeah, depending on where you get it. Absolutely. But I mean, even beside the cost, just having the SSL there and working and the simplicity of that it's a huge time saver as well.
Oh, absolutely. The certificate that is generated here works on the temporary domain that is applied, and then when you update your domain name with whatever domain that you're planning on using, in this case wpnathan.com, once we throw that into your iThemes hosting account, a Let's Encrypt certificate is generated for that domain name as well.
Awesome. So we're just about wrapping up here. So sync is being installed and activated on the new site. And connecting up. So any minute now we'll reload here.
You were almost on time on that, Nathan. Look
at
that. You almost think you did this a few times.
Just a couple.
All right, guys. So this is what you'll see when you install and set up your iThemes hosting account. You'll get this random string of letters and numbers as your default domain name that we will change later on. And just a quick rundown of what information you can find in here. You have your site information where you can set your domain name once we're ready for that. The IP address that you'll need for later on when you are updating your DNS. And you also have a version of Backup Buddy sitting right here in case you don't have Backup Buddy installed on your source server. We give you a free copy of that to go ahead and throw up and get your backup generated. You also have SFTP information. This is going to be very important throughout this process since we're going to have to upload backup files and import Buddy and make sure that everything's working there. And then once again, your database information. You can change the passwords, set your name, the database server, and the like. So basically, once you have your iThemes hosting account set up, we're going to go ahead and log into our source server. In this case, Backup Buddy's installed already, so we don't have to do anything there. However, if you don't have Backup Buddy installed, you're definitely going to want to do that. The next thing you're going to want to do is head over to plugins. To make things simple, when we get everything moved over, it's a good process anytime you do a migration, but you're going to want to take a look and make sure we deactivate any caching plugins as well as any security plugins. If you're using iThemes security or anything like that, we want to make sure those are shut down, because then you can create a few more problems for yourself moving forward if those are activated when we do the migrations. So once we confirm all those are down, we'll go ahead and head over to Backup Buddy Backups. And all you need is the full complete backup. We've got one that we downloaded a little bit ago, so we don't need to go through that whole process, but you'll grab your backup, you will download that to your computer, and then also want to go over to Restore and Migrate and download a copy of your import buddy. Enter whatever password you'd like to use to do the import buddy import there. So once we have that taken care of and we're done within your source server, we'll go back over to iThemes hosting, and we're going to go ahead and edit our SFTP password so that we can log in. And then head over to your whatever FTP client that you choose to use. In this case, we'll be using FileZilla, and just copy over all of the information. So the host would be the server, username, the password that we just set, and then the port's going to be 22. We're going to pop on. All of your WordPress site and information and content is going to be within web content. So this is where your default WordPress is. We don't need to do anything with this. The upgrades to Backup Buddy that we pushed out in 8.2.8 and above allow us to not need to delete all of the content outside of this directory like we typically would have you do during Backup Buddy restores. So we will just go ahead and upload both the import buddy file and the backup file. This will take a few minutes based on the size of the files and your internet speeds and whatnot.
So there's a question that just popped in the chat while we're waiting on this to upload from MR. She'd like to know, can you move content directly without FTP in some sort of file manager?
We do not have a file manager with iThemes hosting, so you will have to use FTP or SFTP.
Right, so iThemes hosting uses the sync interface. And so it's not like cPanel where there's a million options. iThemes Sync streamlines everything, so the very basics of what you need are right there. And once you get your site up and going, everything is then managed through Sync. So uploading pretty fast.
Yeah, it's moving along pretty quickly.
Now MR, yes, MR is also saying you could also do this with Stash. That's something we'll mention in just a little bit.
Yep. If you were trying to do this via Stash, all you would have to do is upload the importbuddy.php file into your web content folder. And once you fire up Import Buddy, you'll be able to choose to do it through Stash right there.
Right.
So we're uploaded now, and we're all set. So we'll go back to your iThemes hosting. And you can click on the link that shows up right in here, and it'll take you straight to your WordPress site. Since we've already got our import buddy, if I could spell it right. So you'll just append importbuddy.php to the end of that URL and access your import buddy. Use the password that you set up, and you're good to go. So, as was mentioned earlier, you could do the import from Stash. So you would just do restore from Stash /stash live, and then enter your iThemes information here, connect to Stash, and away you go. It's a simple process through that. In this case, we're going to be doing it with the backup file that's been uploaded already. So on here, there's really nothing that you're going to need to change or modify. We'll just go ahead and hit restore backup. And this process will take a little while depending on the size of your site and all of that. Typically around 500 megs and below, I've seen this take roughly 5 minutes, but I have gone all the way up to, I restored a 4 gigabyte backup using Import Buddy with this, and there were no problems. It did take a little while, but when you're restoring 4 gigs of content, it's to be expected.
Yeah, that's going to take a little while no matter what. Okay, so Mike, while we're waiting, just kind of describe what's happening right now.
All right, so in this case, right now what's happening is the backup file that we've uploaded is now being unzipped, and all of the files are being moved around into the proper locations, making sure that this is going to be all of your media content, your plugin directories, and the like. Here we go. Get that timing. So once we hit this page, we're going to go ahead and head back over to your iThemes hosting. And you're going to go ahead and set your database password to whatever you like. Typically, what I try to do is I'll use the old database password. And
looks like I'm going to have to change the password for WP Nathan since we're showing it to the world here.
Yeah, I didn't.
I'm sure nobody on this webinar would take advantage of that information.
The database usernames and passwords, and the database server here. So you'll just go ahead and copy all that information over so that everything's in there. Select delete all when it comes to delete existing database tables. That just clears everything out, make sure that everything is working properly. And then once again here, it's taking the .sql files that were located within that backup, and we will go ahead and have that restored very quickly. We'll go ahead and copy over your URL. Make sure when you are doing this step that you are not using HTTPS as your new URL. That'll create some problems a little bit further down the line when we start making changes to your domain name and whatnot. So just leave that as HTTP. Everything will work through the HTTPS without needing to change anything when we update the domain name and whatnot. So here it's updating all of the site URL and all of the content within the database to use the wpnathan.com address. Yeah, setting it to HTTPS right off the bat, right there, is going to create problems with generating the Let's Encrypt SSL certificate when we go to do that. So here, everything is set up. The only thing that's going to be a little bit different is you can't go to wpnathan.com or whatever your username, or not username, sorry, your domain name is right here. You'll have to go back and double check by going through the test URL. Otherwise, you're just going to go to your website as it stands on the current host. So as I'm sure Nathan can attest, it looks like everything is here as is expected.
Yep, everything is there.
That's a good thing that doesn't auto start. It's going to accidentally rickroll everybody on the chat. All right, so with everything looking good here, we'll go ahead and go back to Import Buddy. You can check your site search engine visibility. No change, which is whatever it was on the source server. Public, if you want search engines to check your website and log those. And then private, if you don't want anybody to know that this site exists. So leave all of these checked. We're not going to do anything over here with Import Buddy cleanup. That's all going to stay checked. And we'll just go ahead and finish the cleanup. And we are all set. Everything's been cleaned up outside of the directories. And so we get to move on to updating your domain information. As a note, if you do have, if you are using the Backup Buddy on your initial site, you will want to go ahead and, if it is licensed, since we're moving everything over, you're going to want to unlicense it from your source server. Otherwise, you could run into your licensing issues. And you just go to iThemes licensing, and then enter your iThemes username and password and remove the licenses that you are no longer going to be using on this system.
And that's important if you have a limited number of Backup Buddy licenses, right? If you have a Backup Buddy Gold or a Toolkit and you have unlimited, that you don't have to worry about that.
Absolutely. Yeah, that is only for those of you that have the 2-site packages or only have the Backup Buddy version that comes with iThemes hosting. You don't want to get stuck with a license that you're missing because you left it set up on the old site. All right. So with all that being done, the things we've got left now is that we are going to have to update your DNS. So in this case, we'll go over to Cloudflare. iThemes hosting does not have any kind of DNS hosting, so if you won't be updating name servers or anything like that. We recommend using Cloudflare. You could use your domain registrar. So if you're using, say, GoDaddy, you'll use their name servers and update your A records from their side. So we've got, this is my Cloudflare account, so don't judge. So if we're going to update our DNS, as you sign into Cloudflare, you pick the domain that you're going to be using, choose DNS, and you'll get a list of all of your A records and whatnot that you can set up. In this case, you're going to look for the A record that is for your domain. So in this case, just as an example, we'll just pretend that this says WP Nathan. And we are going to grab our IP address from the site information section. And enter it in right here under value. The other thing that you're going to have to do is make sure that you click this little cloud so that it does not check Cloudflare yet. We can set this back up so that it does go through Cloudflare once the domain registration or the SSL certificate on our end, once we update the domain name, is taken care of. And then double check, make sure that your www record is set either via CNAME as an alias of the domain or as an A record, also pointing to the site. You'll save your records and be set there. Nathan, did you want to take them through GoDaddy real fast?
Yes, we can. I'm not really set up to share a screen right now is the problem.
Gotcha, no problem.
But if you're using GoDaddy or another registrar, you would just open up the settings on that domain and open up the DNS management area. And in most cases, for most registrars like this, you have to change the IP address on the @ record. The www record is usually pointed at the @ record already. So when you update the IP address, it should go to the right place. So just so we have it here, let me grab this IP address and I'll go ahead and update the IP for Nathan Ingram for WP Nathan. So 24.106.55.132.
Yep.
And I'll save that, and that ought to be pretty immediate. So it has not yet resolved, but it should very, very soon.
All right. So, I usually recommend giving it about 5 minutes or so after you set everything up at your domain registrar. That usually gives it plenty of time to come through. So once you're ready for that, we'll go ahead and hit set domain. Let's give WP Nathan a pin.
So you guys know how this works. The DNS and propagation just takes some time. So if we can't get this to happen right away, we'll show you what will happen.
Yeah. I've got a domain that's or an IP address or a subdomain. Thank you. A subdomain that I've had pointed here for a while. So we'll just use that for now. So. And then you'll just hit save. It'll go through. It'll check everything, make sure the IP addresses are linked properly, clear out anything that may have already been used with that subdomain or that domain name, and then start the process again. Make sure that everything's verified. And about here is when it's going to start looking at Let's Encrypt and start generating your Let's Encrypt SSL certificate on that domain name that you're going to be using.
Yep. So for those of you who are not quite familiar how Let's Encrypt works, it's going to look and make sure that the domain name that it's creating a certificate for is actually pointed at this server where the certificate is being created. So it validates that, yes, this server has the ability to show this domain name. So it looks like that certificate was created and we're ready to go.
Yep, so we're all set. And at this point, we're just going to refresh the page. And if I go, as you can see, it's going via the SSL certificate via HTTPS, and
there we go.
You're up and running. You're pretty much all set to go. The only thing that would be left at this point is to not delete part of your username. Go ahead and log back into your how did I accidentally? And of course, I accidentally deleted my password to this. So, but you'll log back in and just double check everything. Make sure that your iThemes security, if you were using that, is activated again. Double check sync. Make sure you're connected there. Usually, if you were previously connected to sync, it will stay connected. But it does sometimes disconnect during the domain name updating process. So you may just need to relog in via sync through the WordPress, the WP admin settings section for iThemes sync. And at that point, you are pretty much ready to go. You've got your website up and running, and you are now using iThemes hosting.
Excellent. So as we work through this, had a couple of questions pop in that we've answered. Any other questions as you've watched this process to move your website into iThemes hosting? Any questions you have, or is there something you'd like to see again? Just drop that there in the chat room at ithemes.com/chat, and we'll do our best to get that question answered. So we'll give you another minute or so to type a question if you have that. Mike, is that password in your LastPass for WP Nathan that you could copy over?
No, I had it saved on just in a text file because I was only using it for this, and I accidentally closed that text file and didn't save it.
All right, so pro tip, always remember your password in a place that you don't delete. All right, so I'm not seeing any questions pop in the chat. It is, again, a pretty straightforward process. If you've ever used Backup Buddy, the process for migration into iThemes hosting is virtually the same as you have on any other service. Just a couple of little changes there that we noted on the demo. So we'll have this up in the iThemes training library if you'd like to go back and rewatch. It should be up in less than an hour there. And again, that knowledge base article will have linked to the webinar replay as well, so you can follow the process there. Here's a good question that just popped in. Gene is asking, if I'm using iThemes hosting for development, do you have a temporary DNS, or is it possible to address the site via an IP address?
So if you are using a brand new site and you're developing on there, you will have that temporary URL. That's that random string of letters and numbers that was created, and you can use that to check on your website, do all of your development and everything that you need to do, and then you'll just update your domain name to point to it when you're ready to go.
Absolutely. Or Gene, another option might be even to, if you don't want to use that long random string, you could have a domain name of some sort that you just use for development sites at your registrar, and even create subdomains there that point over to iThemes hosting. You could do it that way as well if you wanted something simpler.
Correct.
All right, any other questions? We'll stay around for another minute or so. But it certainly is a nice, if you're using that, the randomly generated website address to be able to develop there and just simply flip the switch and that's the live site. That's a pretty simple way to do it. Ted is asking, how about the long-term use of a development environment? And Ted, I guess you're asking, could iThemes hosting be used for that? Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, all right. I think we've reached the end of our questions today. Mike, thanks very much for walking us through that process. And again, folks, this will be available as a replay at training.ithemes.com at roughly an hour from now. If you click on the free webinar library link on the menu bar, it'll take you to this one and you'll see it there. We'll also have this posted in other places as well. Mike, any last notes for folks as we're wrapping up today?
The only thing really is that we look forward to seeing you guys coming over to the iThemes hosting environment. If you guys have any questions, comments, concerns, don't hesitate to contact us via tickets. We're always looking for more feedback from everybody. So even if you think of something that you're just like, hey, I know you guys don't have it right now, but I'd like to see, just going from an example that was in here earlier, the file manager. And that's something that you think we should add in, shoot us an email, let us know. We're always taking your feedback on that.
Yeah, absolutely. This is the first version of iThemes hosting, and particularly for a first version, I think it's really good. It's very simple to use. It has everything that the typical person needs to get a WordPress site up and going. But this is something that's under further development. So like Mike said, if you have ideas, shoot those over, and they would just email support@ithemes.com. Mike, is that right?
That's correct. Just shoot it over to support at ithemes.com, and those are mainly going to be sent over to me, and we'll be taking a closer look at all of that stuff to see what we can do to make this a product that you guys will be excited to tell all your friends about.
Excellent. Awesome. Well, thank you guys for being with us for the last half hour or so as we walk through this process of migrating an existing WordPress site into iThemes hosting. Sherry is asking if there's a chat or call support, and currently it's 24/7, but it's by ticket, by support ticket. So you'll have somebody there, but yeah, through the medium of support tickets. Well, thanks again, everybody, for being with us. Thank you, Mike, for investing your time in this and helping folks see this process. We appreciate everyone, and we'll see you next time here on iThemes Training, where we go further together.